you told a story about a woman who was blind.
Yes.
Can you tell that story again? Can we start there?
Yes, of course. Yeah, so one of my clients had MS, and she actually lost her vision to the point where she couldn't even drive a car. And what happened was she realized through working together that she was holding on to grief, that she was grieving the fact that her nephew had died, and she didn't feel like she had been a big enough part of his life. And so when she recognized this grief, and then she forgave herself and she let it go, her eyesight returned almost immediately, just from that one simple change. She didn't do anything else. She just released the emotion of guilt, hanging on to the guilt.
Okay.
So that's one thing I've learned in my journey, because I also almost died from a chronic disease, an autoimmune condition to be specific. And what I learned is we're chasing the chemistry. A lot of us stop there, and I'm not against chasing the chemistry. So what I mean by that is that we're doing all the lab tests, right? And that's going to tell us what supplement we're going to take. And we're doing the superfoods, and we're doing the biohacks, and we're doing all the apps that tell us when to get into the sun and everything. And so we're chasing this biochemistry. But really, what I found that will sometimes get you into remission, but remission is not full healing. And so my goal is...
Your symptoms could come back.
That's right.
Or come back as something else.
That's right. And that's often what happens. We see when someone has an autoimmune condition, they'll develop more and more and more autoimmune conditions, right? More labels are applied to them because they haven't fully healed. So they just continue along what we call this autoimmune continuum, acquiring more and more disease conditions or more labels instead of actually healing from them. And so most times you can get into remission by chasing the chemistry, but you can only usually fully heal if you actually release the stuck emotions that are trapped in your field. So what I've learned is that in our modern culture, in modern science, which I am a scientist myself, in modern medicine, we are largely taught that the body is a machine. And so if you give it the different parts that it needs, the machine works. And so that is our approach to treating disease, is we look at the body in parts, and we're going to say, okay, you don't have enough insulin, let's replace it with some insulin. You can inject yourself with the insulin, for example. But that doesn't actually get to the root cause, right? That's just a symptom. And we want to cover up the symptoms and mask them in modern medicine and modern science. But the symptoms are there to tell you that there's an underlying imbalance, energetic imbalance in the body. And that energetic imbalance stems from emotions that are trapped in your field. So to break it down kind of simply, we're taught that the DNA is the blueprint of the body. So that means the DNA will determine what your body looks like, how it's made. Epigenetics is the study of showing what can actually change the genetic expression. So food, for instance, can change what genes are expressed. Your emotions also change what genes are expressed. But we now know we need to go beyond. We need to go beyond that limited view and understand that the heart of all of this is what's called the biofield. This is a Western recognized and defined term. The biofield is an electromagnetic field that your body generates. And so we know you generate current in your body. We measure it through EKGs to measure the heart, EEGs to measure the brain waves. Albert Einstein even said when there's a current, you generate an electric field and a magnetic field. We call that the electromagnetic field. Everybody produces this. We measure it. Western science has measured it. That's why we believe it now, because as scientists, what we measure is what we believe, right? So it's measured and we've quantified it. 6 cells don't have as strong as a field as a healthy cell will. In this field, it is an electrical field, right? It's an electrical and magnetic field. Your emotions, what are they? They're not just feelings, they are energy. And energy carries a vibrational frequency. Okay, so we talk about low vibrational frequency emotions, which are going to be like hatred, hanging on to anger, onto fear, onto guilt, onto shame. Those emotions resonate at a lower vibrational frequency. And higher vibrational frequency emotions are going to be things like joy, gratitude, love. Those higher vibrational frequencies can impart health to the body, because all energy carries information. So what happens is when you have somebody who's been hurt in the past, maybe abused in the past, and they're angry about it, they will hold that low vibrational energy, that frequency, in their field. And when they hold it there, it sends information to the body. It sends a message of fear. The body will literally build itself based on the message of fear, that we are in trouble. We're in a fear space, chronic fight or flight. Most of us spend about 70% of our day on average in chronic fight or flight. And it's not because we have tigers chasing us around, it's because we have emotional tigers sitting in our field that we can't escape from. We have to release them. When you release that low vibrational frequency emotion, it makes room for joy, love, and gratitude. And if you could just picture what kind of body is your field going to build if you're in a state of fear, versus what kind of body will it build for you if you're in a state of gratitude. They are completely different. One turns on inflammatory genes, one turns off. One releases cortisol, the other releases oxytocin. Totally two separate systems. You have the power to actually change those energetic imprints in your field, and you do that by releasing those trapped emotions.
Okay, so on that point, some of us have been living like this for a long time, and it feels like the Apostle Paul wrote, like, I don't want to do this stuff. I don't want to think this way, but I do. It's evil within me, or however he said. I can't remember the exact quote. I should, because I was in seminary. Sorry for my professor watching this. But anyway, so I keep doing the things I don't want to do. I keep thinking the things I don't want to think. I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want to be highly anxious. I want to have generalized anxiety disorder, whatever they call it. I know someone who told me the other day, in the food world, nutrition world, that she gets chronic cluster headaches and, maybe hormonal. And I was talking to her about some of the stuff I had heard, and she's like, yeah, but my mom had it and my sisters have it.
Yeah.
It's probably a genetic thing, and it gets, but if it's a energy thing, does that get passed on from our parents? Or so I guess two questions. I mean, it seems heavy to people who are like, my mom was like this, my sister is like this, I'm like this, I've lived this my whole life. I'm trying so hard to not be negative, but I can't escape it. What do I do?
Yes. Okay. So the first part of it is, yes, you actually can hand down generational trauma, as we call it. So the way we view it now, in more like this cutting edge thinking, kind of out of the box thinking, is not that the genes are being passed down and they're the ones that are dictating that physiology, like the cluster headaches. What we think is it's actually trauma that's passed down in the field. So you can have people that pass down generational trauma from, like, Holocaust victims, for instance. And so that is contained in the field, and then that field gets passed down to the child, and then that field will then create the physiology of that child. And so
It's okay. We got a kid here.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yes, I'm so glad.
The other day I was doing an interview with Joel, and my daughter came up to show me a calendula flower. So we got that. So anyway, yes. So it's okay. It happens. Yes. All right, back on scene. Here we go.
Okay, so that is how we think they're actually passed down, and it's not through the DNA, through the field, but yes, you can pass down generational trauma. For an example, I was actually born with chronic constipation. I couldn't digest anything, like not even breast milk. That developed in utero from my mother's traumatic stress that occurred when she was pregnant with me. So that wasn't something that happened because of my environment once I was born. It was immediate upon birth that this is what they figured out was wrong with me. So, and it wasn't obviously, I developed years of eating toxic foods or exposed to glyphosate or whatever. It came from in utero. So you can pass down these traumas. Your second point is a great one. A lot of people, once they become aware of it, they feel stuck, because we actually are creatures of habit. And so a lot of the thoughts we think are subconscious, and they've become ingrained. It's like a habit that, how hard it is to break a habit, like trying to give up sugar. It's really hard.
Well, and like for me, for instance, I mean, I live most of my life very just go, 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 go. And
Yes.
I mean, my body doesn't even know, in some ways doesn't even know the opposite, or
That's right.
I will feel an anxiety, but I have no idea where it's coming from. I would have
Exactly.
a very hard time like telling you what it is because it's just there, you
Exactly.
know?
I had the same thing, and I think a lot of people relate to what you're saying because we are in this culture now that's go, go, go. We're on the treadmill, and if you're not constantly achieving or like one-upping yourself, then you have failed. You're not a success. And so I think the first thing is to recognize that you're in fight or flight, which you have done. And the second thing is exactly what you're saying. You have to feel what it feels like to not be in fight or flight. And so this is the tricky part because you won't really understand or be fully aware of how much time you're spending in fight or flight until you feel the opposite, which is the parasympathetic response. And so one thing that helps people get into that space is, you know, a lot of people do well with like meditation, journaling, prayer, walks, grounding, things like that. But for some of us, including myself, that just didn't work for us. We couldn't get out of our minds, right? So what I found worked for me is somatic exercises. These are a way that you use your body to reverse engineer your nervous system. So what you're doing is you're using your body to have it experience a felt sense of safety. So your body needs to feel safe before it could rewire itself, and you need to rewire to heal the body. Okay, so you can do these exercises in using your hands, using your body, you know, to actually develop that calmness. And if you just get one little glimpse of what it feels like to be in parasympathetic, that's enough for you to be like, oh, okay, that's what it feels like. And 99.99% of my day, I'm not there. Let me keep doing these exercises to spend more time. So it's not usually a switch has just flipped, and you're like, oh, now I'm in parasympathetic 70% of the time, and not sympathetic. It's usually from doing these exercises and having one moment and then extending it out to another moment and another moment, and you do them throughout the day. Every time you start to feel overwhelmed, you can implement one of those exercises to calm yourself down. So it's really a moment-to-moment awareness of where you're at that moment and applying one of these strategies. And like I said, it doesn't have to be somatic. It could be whatever strategy you need. It could be maybe in that moment, just taking the deep breath to calm yourself down a little bit worked. You know, maybe sitting and saying a prayer worked. Maybe calling a friend helps calm you down. One thing that works well for me is jokes. We have a joke book, and we'll just start telling jokes to each other. That's a great way to like start calming down. Laughing yoga is another way. So it's not this like instantaneous fix. It takes work, just like Dr. Joe Dispenza leads these classes on how to do this. What he's teaching you is actually how to rewire the nervous system so that you spend your time, majority of your time in a parasympathetic state. But it takes work to do it. You have to put in the daily work.
Okay, final question. You're speaking at the Rogue Food Conference. So it's a Rogue Food Conference, which if I understand correctly is about really food freedom, maybe farmers who are circumventing the current system of government intrusion, I guess they would say. So what does this have anything to do with the Rogue Food movement?
So this one's Rogue Health. And I think this is actually like this might be the first Rogue Health they've done. And so I think what they have realized is that they were doing all these Rogue Food events for the same reasons that you're talking about, trying to circumvent so that we can have the freedom to choose what we want to put in our body without the government saying, no, you can't eat that raw milk, no, you can't eat that kombucha. And what they've realized is that they were missing a component of it, is that a lot of us are not truly free because we're sick. And once you're sick and you have these ailments, you understand firsthand that nothing else matters. This is the freedom that matters the most to you, because if you can't work, if you can't think because you got brain fog, if you are so weak that you can't chase your kids around to play tag or your grandkids to play tag, or even just read them a book because now you can't read the words and know what you're thinking. If you're so anxious all the time that you can't be in the moment and really live that moment and be connected with somebody, you're gonna miss it. Life will fly by in a blink. And so
The government's not the only one who can control you. It can be. It's an inside job
That's
too.
right.
You have
And
this inside thing that also you're working on.
And that was what my talk was centered around today, was that health isn't about solving a puzzle. Health is about reconnecting with the rhythm. And that is coming inside, that realizing there's an actual physical light that actually is created inside of you. These are biophotons. Those heal the body. They communicate, they coordinate everything in your body. They communicate with the biofield around you. And above all that, above the biophotons, above your chemistry, above the biophotons, above the biofield is consciousness. That's what controls all of it. Hence what Joe Dispenza does and his amazing healing story of how he healed his spine by using his conscious brain. He literally, in his mind, pieced his spine back together, one vertebrae at a time, using intense focus, intention, and elevated emotion. And that is an example of how you can heal yourself, and it is about what you think and what you believe and how you speak to your body. So what story are you telling your body? Are you buying into the story that disease can't be reversed, that the Western medicine system is the best we can do, pills are the best that we can do? Are you buying in the system that everybody's against me, we're not going to win anything, life is so hard? Or are you waking up every day and you're telling yourself the story that I am resilient, I am healthy, happy, healed, and whole. I am gratitude. I'm grateful. No matter what my life looks like, I am grateful. That will change everything about you just by changing that perception.
Yep. Makes me think of this chicken we have that has an issue with her crop ever since she was young. And we have nicknamed her since the beginning the sick one. And I'm not going to call her that anymore. I'm going to call her the healthy one.
Joel used to do that too. Yeah, so when Joel and I were writing our book together, he told a story about how we had these cows that don't do as well, and they termed them like it was a really negative term. And now, after we've been working together, and he realizes like this power of your consciousness and power of your intention, he stopped calling. I think he even called them maybe the scuzzballs. It was something really bad, And now he doesn't do that anymore. Because I told him, I was like,
name it, claim it.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. They are going to live that out, because all of our energies affect each other. And that's also been measured, by the way. And so he changed them. And now he's like, okay, let's send them this intention. They are healthy, happy, healed, and whole, But yeah, we just fall into that. That's our culture.
Yeah.
Right. And we like to label things, which is why Joel and I named our book and our podcast Beyond Labels.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to hold on to those limiting beliefs.
Okay, speaking of which, how can people follow you and find more stuff about what you do?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I have a website, dr.sinamccullough.com or drsinaMcCullough.com, and Joel and I have a podcast, Beyond Labels. It's on like Spotify and all the major, podcast locations.
Okay, Dr. McCullough, thank you. Don't forget to support the show and get your greenpasture.org promo code Allison 10% off at checkout. This is the fermented cod liver oil butter oil blend that I've been taking for over a decade. It really helped me with dental health. I used to get cavities all the time. After taking this, I go to the dentist and they were shocked. I had no cavities, but they never really cared why. Anyway, you get 10% off if you use Allison at checkout, greenpasture.org. They've got plenty of other great products. This fermented cod liver oil, concentrated butter oil blend, though, is my favorite. Weston A. Price, who was a biological dentist, turn of the century, saw that his patients were starting to get cavities due to industrialized food. This is basically the formulation he came up with. You get more out of both if they're packed together instead of just taking one or the other. So greenpasture.org, vitamin A, vitamin D, all kinds of omega-3s. Go over, do that. Get some stuff to support your immune system, to support your health, and support the show. See you next time.